Hey guys, what's up? It's Snake here, and I'm sure you've all heard the exciting news. We are going to be receiving Map Pack 4 for Call of Duty Black Ops on August 23rd, and it is not going to contain a single multiplayer map. That's right, all 5 are going to be zombie maps. No, unfortunately, not all new zombie maps. It's going to be the 4 original zombie maps from Call of Duty World at War, which are Nocturne Toten, Verrückt, Shinanuma, and Der Reese. Now, the last one, of course, is going to be a brand new one, and we're going to talk about that one in just a second. But these old 4 maps, if you already have them because you purchased the Hardened or Prestige Edition, no, you're not going to have to spend another 1,200 Microsoft points or $15 on the PSN network, or, well, I guess that was redundant. Regardless, you won't have to spend your money because as a big thank you from Treyarch and Activision, we're going to be getting the 5th map for free since we, are such awesome zombie fans for buying the Hardened and Prestige Edition to get those extra 4 maps. So that's really, really exciting as far as I'm concerned. Let's see. So the 5th map, the final map, and yes, unfortunately, the final map in our Zombies saga. Now that doesn't mean it's the final map of Zombies period, but it kind of does imply that this will be the end-all be-all, the last map in our storyline. Which is kind of sad to see our characters go, but hopefully the next zombie map, whatever it may be, is going to be just as good and have just as awesome of a storyline. And the really cool thing about that, too, is we all know now how to research story, or most of it, we know how to look for things now and figure out, figure out different Easter eggs and stuff like that. So this may mean that we can get the story to be more complicated and more in-depth and just be a bigger, crazier story than the one we're in right now. But of course, we're going to have to wait and see what happens with that. So the 5th map, the final map in the map pack, and it may very well be the final map in our storyline, is Moon. It's not going to be Area 51, and it's not going to be Quarantine. We're actually going to be on a lunar base in, I would assume, spacesuits and some sort of magnetic boots or something to allow us to stick to the ground and be able to walk and run around, because otherwise why would you need stamina up? But the interesting thing about this map is they say a lot of things about it compared to some of the other because some of the other times that they've posted about new map packs and stuff coming out, they seem to have given us a lot of information on this one, more so than any of the other maps we've gotten so far when it comes to zombies, because they're very tight-lipped about that stuff, and for the right reason, of course. They want us to try and figure it out on our own. But the thing about this map is they tell us that the zombies are going to be flashing in and out of reality, shifting in and out of sight, is exactly what they say, but reality, I think that may very well hold a clue to our storyline. We also get a new gun called the Wave Gun, where it cooks the zombies from the inside out, so some sort of photon wave or something like that. We're going to have new equipment, and we're going to have a new perk, so that's really exciting, because I love perks, and I can't wait to see how we have to get 8 perks on this one. And I can't wait to see if they're going to bring back the monkey/dog rounds. So I don't know. I think so. I mean, obviously, if this is going to be the last one, there's got to be some sort of big boss that we run into either over and over again, or we have to call out somehow. So we'll wait and see what happens with that. And then the last thing they say, and then they talk about the gravity, so zombies can float up into space and things like that, all except for space zombies, or astronaut zombies, I should say, which have the same suit we do, and therefore the same sort of strange magnetic boots that can hold them down to the ground when everybody else floats off into space. But the last thing that they talk about is the quantum entanglement device, being either a blessing or a curse. Not one or the other, but the possibility of it being either or, meaning it's some sort of device that will be almost like the flip of a coin. Now, quantum entanglement, what that states is that, as well as I can understand it at least, this is what quantum entanglement is. It's 2 particles that somehow become entangled or linked at the subatomic level. And so even as they drift apart and the space between them is exaggerated, at least up to a certain length or distance away, they keep that entanglement. And the simplest way to understand the entanglement is like this. If one begins to spin counterclockwise, the other one will start to spin clockwise, because the entanglement causes this sort of polar opposites. Now, It's a little bit more complicated than that because let's say particle A is the one that spins counterclockwise. Particle B has to spin clockwise. It has to do the opposite of what particle A does. But if particle A is just whichever particle is affected first or is the cause to whatever particle B does, then particle A can choose any option. It can spin clockwise, it can spin counterclockwise, it can spin forward or backward if we're thinking of it three-dimensionally. It can do or be anything. And then, of course, particle B can only be the opposite of particle A. But particle A has an unlimited choice of options, many different paths it can choose. Now, think of it like this. If we had a coin that I was able to cut in the middle and wrap in two pieces of paper and hand them to particle A and particle B, particle A would open the first one, and it could either be heads or tails. So it's got both possibilities. It's a 50-50 chance. But once that one's been opened, then the other one is automatically the opposite. So in other words, if I open mine and it's a heads, and then you open the other one, it has to be tails. But mine could have either been heads or tails. So this is the easiest way to understand entanglement. Okay, so let's talk about quantum mechanics real quick. So let's say we're doing an experiment. And on this experiment, we have a sheet with two slits in it. Slits going from the floor to the ceiling. And on the other side is a wall, and on this side is myself with a gun. So as I shoot it, let's say for the sake of the experiment that every bullet goes through a slit. On the other side, it will create a bullet pattern showing half of the bullets going through one slit and half through the other. Now let's say we have a wave generator instead. So the wave goes up against the wall where the slits are, and as it passes through it, two waves are created that generates outward from both slits, going in all directions, thus interfering with itself and causing what's called a wave pattern, where the highest wave is actually in between the two slits where there was originally no wave. So an exaggeration is created, and then on either side are two deficits, where the wave will drop lower than it would when there was just one wave, and then back up and up and down, so on and so forth, as it generates outward, becoming closer and closer to a straight line, if we could measure the entire wave pattern. So this is obviously different from the bullet pattern, which we saw with the gun. Well, let's take an electron gun then, which fires particles known as electrons, which are subatomic particles that are unseen by the naked eye. So if they're particles, they should act just like the bullets. But as we shoot it through the two slits, we discover that it creates a wave pattern. It's actually acting like the wave. Well, how does this make any sense? Let's turn on a light and watch, because if we have a light on and we're watching from the side of the electron detector, we'll see a flash through the slit as it passes. Okay, so what we're looking for now is two flashes at the same time. But we only get one. Well, that's strange. Now it's acting like the bullet. Why is this? Well, we have to assume that it's because of our observation of the fact. Our measurement of it occurring causes it to only act like one particle as opposed to many. What's actually happening when we're not looking is that the single electron particle is choosing every possible path it can go through, and therefore it goes through both slits at the same time, and as it goes through both slits, it generates outward in all directions, causing a wave pattern and interfering with its own trajectory, and thus we see the wave pattern on the wall. But as soon as we view it, it chooses a single path that only goes in one direction and therefore looks like the bullet again. Pretty crazy, I know. But let's talk a little bit about cats. Schrodinger's cat. Well, the way this works is, let's say we have a safe, and inside the safe there's a radioactive particle, a Geiger counter to read the radioactive levels, a cyanide vial attached to the Geiger counter which will break once it reads a certain level, and a cat. Now, of course, this cat is alive, and we shut the door, and as we shut the door and turn on the power just long enough, what we're doing is we're decaying the particle to a certain point where it has a 50-50 chance of decaying all the way and releasing the radioactive material, and a 50-50 chance that it won't. So from the moment the power is turned off to the moment we open the door back up, the cat could have been dead or could have been alive. But it is actually both. It is both alive and dead until we open the door and view it, because just like the particle, it must choose all possible paths at the same time, even if it interferes with itself, in order until there is an outside viewer, some sort of observation or measurement of the event. So what does that mean for us? Well, What it means is we're talking more about parallel universes and the very possibility that the event or the point in which the electron particle was fired, or let's stick with the cat, why not that? The point obviously with the cat is the decaying radiation. Well, the point for us is, I believe, the death or destruction of Sam, which caused her to exist in multiple realities at one time. So what we must have to do then is figure out some way to prevent that event from occurring. Well, how do we prevent her from existing in multiple realities? It seems to me we would have to resurrect her. So Rezurrection may not only just, Rezurrection as a title for our map pack may mean that they're bringing back the old 4 maps and resurrecting them, but it may be some sort of double entendre where we have to resurrect Sam in order to take her out of these multiple universes, and thus making the zombies disappear out of reality completely. At least that's what I think. So we'll just have to wait and see. It sounds really, really exciting. I don't know about you, but I'm definitely very, very pumped, and I can't wait. And so I'm going to leave you with this little fact, or not fact, but I'm going to tell you what I'm about to do with this page. We are going to be releasing Call of the Dead and Shangri-La storylines before the new map pack comes out, and I also want to try and make another video after I've done a bit more research about quantum mechanics and quantum entanglement theory and all that stuff, so I can give you a better understanding of what it means and what it may possibly mean for us and our storyline. So until next time, guys, peace out.